Is there anyone out there?
This is Weird Night.
Hello, you're watching BBC Two.
Weird.
Weird Night continues. In 10 minutes, WSH, the disturbing world of the urban myth. But first, ordinary people tell extraordinary tales. Strange days.
Back in 1989, I was in training at the Hendon Police College, and I used to come home for the weekends. On the Thursday evening, I phoned my mother to let her know that I'll be coming home the weekend. And on the Friday evening, when I got to the Isle of Sheppey where I live, I went to the high street to get my music papers, which I collected each week, which also entailed me coming into my road from the opposite end, which I normally do. As I got about 3/4 of the way down the road, I passed a house where lived an elderly gent, Mr. Jenkins, whom I knew quite well, having lived in the road for 13 years. He was standing outside the front of the house, and I said, "Hello, Mr. Jenkins," as I passed him. And he raised his hands to the brim of his hat, nodded, but didn't say anything. Oh, strange. Anything. Anyway, carried on, got to my front door, got into my living room, and there's my mother. First thing she said to me was, "Guess who died last night?" "No, sorry." She said, "Mr. Jenkins." And I just stood there with my mouth open. I was totally shocked.
I remember I was climbing up Ben Nevis, going up the glen, and I came to this ice bridge going across like this, and I could see it was terribly dangerous to actually go over the top. And when I arrived at the bridge, just where I needed it, suddenly, stretching out in front of me, there was a line of footsteps, 1, 2, 3, going ahead, and just at the side, as if there were a shepherd's crook, just going down at the side, imprinted in the snow. There was this line leading ahead, and the extraordinary thing was that before there was nothing, and as far as I could see, in front there was nothing. And I knew that if I put my feet in these prints, I'd be able to get over this ice bridge without any trouble at all, and I'd be perfectly safe. So I did that. I went forward, putting my feet carefully, rather like good King Wenceslas, in the snow prints, and arrived safely over the ice bridge. And I looked back, and to my amazement, there was nothing behind except this one line of prints. And in front of me, going down the slope to Kinloch Leven, there was absolutely a wide expanse of totally untrammeled, untouched snow. The prints started and stopped exactly where I needed them. And people have said, well, how did that happen? I've no idea, but I know they were there when I wanted them, and it could well be they saved my life. Really, one could say it was a miracle.
When I was 9, I was in my bedroom reading, and I was aware out of the corner of my eye that there was something that shouldn't be there. And as I looked up, there was this creature, which could only be described as a troll-like thing, sitting on the chair. And it was about 1 foot high, naked, really hairy, really ugly, and had no genitals or anything. And he said to me, "Whatever you want, I can get for you, anything." I thought, oh. Now, when you're 8 or 9, there's not a real lot that you actually want. So I thought, oh, test it. So I asked this troll thing to get my mum to come in and to pick a particular cushion up, and there were quite a few, and I said, well, pick that one up and walk out with it. And a few minutes later, my mum came in, picked up this particular cushion, and was almost to the door with it. And I said, "Mum, what are you doing with that?" And her face sort of went, I don't know. I've come in for it for some reason." And she looked really confused. So anyway, she went out, and the troll reappeared, and I said, see, whatever you want, I can get that for you, anything.
We were sitting in his kitchen having coffee on a perfectly ordinary evening, about 1 o'clock. And I had a very strong sensation that entity had come up to my eyes and was looking through them into the world. I didn't say anything to my friend and just carried on the conversation perfectly normally. And as one does in conversation, he glanced up at me and looked away, obviously distressed. I sat there for a moment and then asked him what was the problem. And he said, when I looked up at you, there was someone else sitting there. We sat for a moment and I said that I knew what he had experienced because it confirmed what my sensations were. He couldn't look at me again, and because of the sense of unreality that prevailed at that moment, we decided that it would be best if we just made physical contact by touching hands to regain some reality. And having done that, we then decided it was better to leave the house and return to our friends, where we spent the rest of the night quietly talking about ordinary things.
A friend of mine won a rather ghastly vase at some kind of evening do and brought it home for the general contempt of her family. I was staying at the house overnight at the time, and I had the chance to see it. It was in the form of a small Grecian urn, and what was particularly disgusting about it was that it was varnished in a shiny black lacquer, and it had a sort of embossed body. Well, it was put up out of the way on top of a vestments cupboard in the dining room, and I stayed overnight in an adjoining room with the doorway, which was open, and in the morning the vase had totally changed in its appearance. No one could have got in and taken it away and done anything to it, and instead of being shiny uniform black, it was as if it had been put on a potter's wheel and had emery paper applied to it as the wheel was turning, because the black lacquer had been worn down, exposing a green undercoat and then the terracotta of the vase itself, so that the effect was immensely improved. It was as if it was antique and had been dug up somewhere, and it was quite pleasing to look at. But how that could possibly have happened in total silence, in the night, in an empty room, with someone sleeping immediately adjoining to it, I can't imagine.
I had a healing experience. I was lying propped up in bed, masses of pillows and tubes and drains coming from everywhere. And clouds rolled in at the bottom of my bed, and then they cleared. And as they cleared, I saw this Indian teepee, and in front of it was a fire made of sticks. It was burning, and there was a medicine man walking round, dancing round the fire, and he was singing a chant. He had a shaker in his hand and a hat on his head with 2 horns. And he told me to take the healing, to lie still, because I tried to sit up to see more. After all this had happened, it was like being in a white, bright bubble. It kind of came over all my bed, the Indian scene. And on the day afterwards, on the Friday, all the tubes, the drains, everything was taken out of me, which was early, because the surgeon had said the next 48 hours after the operation was crucial. And Mr. Maudsley, who was the surgeon, couldn't believe just how well I had done.